Welcome, everybody, to our live edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel. It's Friday, May the 24th, and we're talking NBA today. We're talking Major League Baseball. Whatever you want to talk about, we encourage you all that are watching. I know it's Memorial Day weekend, and some of you might already be on your way to some kind of celebration, whether it be a camping trip or a little mini vacation. But for those of you out there who are watching, feel free to chime in with your questions and comments. We would highly encourage you to do so. We're going to have 3 NBA free picks for tonight's game. That's right, 3 picks and 1 game. But without further ado, let me introduce my esteemed guest, the guy they call Mr. Cool, Jesse Schule. How are you, my man?
I'm all right, Ross. I know one guy who's not going to be throwing back the brewskis on Memorial Day long weekend. The Canadian guy in Southeast Asia is on a diet. No beers this weekend for me, but I hit the gym pretty hard today. Feeling good, feeling really good about the NBA playoffs, coming off a winning day. Things are feeling right around the way they should.
All right, sounds good to me. So, Sean, he's on a diet. He's not drinking. It's Memorial Day in Texas. I know it's got to be starting to get steamy hot down there. And I know one guy's not on a diet. That's you.
I am on a diet, trying to lose some weight.
Oh, you are on a diet.
But
You're
my
on a
diet is
food diet. All the food you see, you eat.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I'm trying to get rid of the bread. The bread crushes me. Everything's the same. The bread's terrible. The bread is terrible. I won't have beers, but I'll definitely eat a lot of meat for Jesse.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, the big thing with bread, I mean, I went on a keto diet back 2 years ago. I lost 17 pounds in a matter of 45 days. But you don't eat bread. What? How could you survive without bread? I just don't get it. You know, it's tough. Anyway,
especially because it's such a good filler. Especially so.
Yeah, I mean,
then it's like I'm a quasi like Atkins because it's all meat and cheese.
Yeah. Anyway, we saw Boston bounce back last night, Jesse. As I predicted on the show, I did have a free pick on the Boston Celtics. I lost my premium pick last night on the under, though. I know you two cats had the over in that game, so good for you. But Boston, again, Indiana let them off the hook in game 1. And a team like that, again, they lost game 2 in both of the first 2 series. The worst thing that could have happened in Indiana if they wanted to continue that trend of beating them in game 2 is take them to overtime. They had an opportunity to win that game and they blew it. And Boston escapes from an overtime win, and everybody was cutting them down. They're not that good. They're overrated. And what do? They come up with a big effort in game 2. So what did you see last night?
Well, I got to say, for a 20-point win, on paper, it looks fantastic. I was not impressed with Boston at all last night. Jason Tatum couldn't buy a shot from anywhere 5 feet away from the basket. If Indiana, it was more of a matter of Indiana losing the game, turning the ball over. The injury to Halliburton didn't help matters.
Yeah, but the game was out of hand when he got hurt already. So go ahead, Jess.
Well, yeah, I wasn't impressed with Boston. I got to say, I certainly wasn't impressed with Jason Tatum. He's built as the superstar of the odds-on favorite to win the championship. I don't like Boston against Dallas or against Minnesota. I'm saying that right now.
I don't know. I mean, Jess, I don't know what you're like. I mean, he had 23 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 45% from the field. I mean, his partner scored 40. It was his night, Jaylen Brown. I don't know what you expect more out of him. Again, Sean, what's your take?
Listen, the Pacers let the game 1 slip away. Game 2, it was close for a half, and then you expected Boston to come out and I don't say dominate, but this is a team that won a lot of games in the regular season, so you're expecting a good performance. they had a quarter. I mean, like Jesse said, this was a 16-point win. It didn't really seem like a 16-point win. They were up. It was kind of close. It was never really. If you had the Pacers, you didn't think you had a shot. But if you had the Celtics, it just didn't seem as comfortable. I don't know. Do you think that was a great performance? I know you're concentrating in on Tatum, but I don't know. It's just.
No, I mean, look, have I seen teams look better in the postseason? Absolutely. Indiana, one of them. I've seen them look tremendous. Again, they shot.
Russ, like you said, I think people expect to they lost game 2 the first 2. They're going to lose this one. Well,
yeah.
They had such a poor game 1. You knew they were going to come back in a game 2.
Sean, and I want to clarify, and I know you guys both know the way I think. When I say the worst thing that happened is they went to overtime, because I really feel that if Boston would have won by the decisive manner they won last night in game 1, Indiana I would have been on all over Indiana in game 2. But because they took them down to the wire, and everybody started to question whether Boston's that good or not, and everybody was singing Indiana's praises. And look, I've been singing Indiana's praises since for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah. They shared the ball great. They did last night. Again, Jesse, they shot 52% for the field last night, But you're losing games. You lost the first 2 games of the series shooting 52 and I believe 55% in game 1. Again, you can't win against really good teams at this time of year playing the kind of defense they do. Just shake it out.
Well, you can't turn the ball over. I mean, Indiana. I thought Indiana looked terrible. And even when they looked terrible, they still managed to close the gap. It was a close game at halftime. That's the other thing. Boston went on runs, and then they couldn't create the separation until late in the game. When you're the odds-on favorite to win the championship, when you look at the odds on Boston, they're the kind of team that should build up a big lead. They should blow you out in the first quarter, and the game should be never in doubt from then on forward if you're truly that kind of team. And I just don't think Boston is that kind of, like Denver was last year.
Yeah, is it fair to assess them in that manner, Jess? Sean?
Well, they lost game 2 of the first series. They lost game 2 to Miami and Cleveland. So that's a warning sign right there.
Yeah, but
and how they bounced back in the ensuing.
They also blew every one of the other games were blowouts, and the other 8 wins.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And also,
his reaction, Sean, when he was just going like this, it reminded me of the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I think he's ready for me to jump in.
Was trying to talk the guy into voting for the World Series. You want to watch the World Series, buddy? And he walked away.
I'm sure he thought. Well, I'm sure he was, because you also got thinking who's going to talk first in the comment on when you said, "What do you think?" Because then you led us into Jesse's name instead of saying Sean. But again, I was with you over. I think all 3 of us liked the Pacers over the Bucks because they had some problems, and the Bucks didn't look good all season, and their head coach. But I think we also said last series as well with the Pacers, we don't want to lay big points because of the defense, even versus the Knicks. The Knicks they were going over. So this is the problem with the Pacers. They'll shoot 55, 52%, whatever, but they're going to allow 50%. So their 3-point shooting better be better than the other team's 3-point shooting. So that's the problem with the Pacers advancing here. Can they score? Yes.
Absolutely.
Can you pull out a win? That's the thing. If this series is going to be a 4-2 series or a 4-1 series, or perhaps even a sweep now, Pacers if Pacers don't win tomorrow or whenever the next game is, get out the brooms. I think they'll fold up and be like, it was a nice season, and it'll be a 101-87 win for the Celtics in game 4, and they move on to the finals.
Cool. Jesse Schule, what do you think the odds are? What do you think the percentages are of a team that shoots 52% from the field and then is an 8.5-point underdog? Take a guess at how many times they cover when they shoot 50%.
It's got to be between 80 and 90.
No, not quite as much, but up there. Yes. But in any event, but you're criticizing Boston. I'm just trying to tell you, make a point here. that, you should look in the mirror at yourself, not you, Jess. The Indiana Pacers should look at the mirror at themselves and say, we shot 52.5% in this game, and we were an 8.5-point dog, and we couldn't even cover the spread, let alone win the game. So any event. All right, let's get to our free picks. All right. One other thing I want to touch upon with you, Jess, now that I got you. Yeah, I see you guys, you and the family sporting those Vancouver Canucks jerseys the other day when they were up 3-2. And then the last thing I saw was the Vancouver Canucks jerseys were on backwards after they blew a 3-1 series lead to Edmonton. And Edmonton wins game 1 last night, 3-2 in overtime against Dallas. Got to give Edmonton credit. I mean, Dallas scores that late goal with about 3 minutes to go to tie the game. I thought for sure when that happened, this is going to be Dallas's night. But they overcame, and they went in double overtime.
Well, you know what happens in Vancouver after the Canucks lose to Edmonton in Game 7, Ross? Everybody goes to eBay looking for Oilers jerseys.
I know when they lost to Boston in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals back in 2011 or whatever, there was riots that were breaking out all over the city. So
I was right in the middle of them. I was right there, and I was in my 30s at that point. So I took one look at what I saw, what was unfolding, and said, "All right, boys, time to get out of here. I don't want to be anywhere near this."
Yeah, they blew a 3-1 series lead in that one too, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Sean, I know you're not a big hockey guy. You do dabble in once in a while, but boy,
I can't. The hockey, I was doing good. The playoffs, I had the Stars. I figured tough series. Edmonton off a tough series. The Stars look. Well, that's how you go on a. A 19-9 run in NBA and a 6-20 run in the NHL playoffs. I can't find a total. I can't find a side.
All right. Well, you know what, Sean? I got the Stars too, and that's you two guys on this show. So let's talk. Let's talk about the tonight's game in the NBA. The Minnesota Timberwolves,
good Dallas team,
against Dallas. The Minnesota Timberwolves are a 5.5-point home favorite. The total 207.5. Dallas upsets them in game 1. I guess if you want to call it an upset, I had them on my premium side at plus 4.5. It wasn't looking good for a while, but I don't know. Maybe the youth of Minnesota. I have no idea, but they gave them away at the end. And Luka Doncic again, Jesse. We talked about this last week. Every time we start doubting whether he's 100% healthy or not, he comes up and he looks like a thoroughbred. But anyway, you got a couple props in this game. Take it away.
Yeah, well, Ross, I did say that I thought it was a tough spot for Minnesota coming off the Game 7 win. I did say that it was a good spot for Luka Doncic to perhaps have a big game because he'd had a few days off to rest his knees and his ankles. And with that knowledge, I went and bet on the under and lost. So take that for what it is. But the player props haven't been losing. The player props have been fire of late. And one of our favorite characters is a guy by the name of Derek Lively II Jr. And we had him over 15.5 rebounds and points in game 1 of the series. And I came on here and I told you guys, he's now taken over as the starting center. He's getting the minutes ahead of Daniel Gafford. He's playing well. He's putting up bigger numbers, and I expect that his increase in minutes to continue into this series. So sure enough, he plays 27 minutes in game 1 combined to Gafford's 21 minutes. He gets 9 points, 11 rebounds, goes way over that number of 15.5. So I'm looking at. Actually, I think it was only 14.5. Sorry, it was only 14.5 in game 1.
Yeah.
It's 15.5 for this game. So first thing I did after that game.
I thought it was 13.5, be honest with you, Jess. But anyway, you won in one.
Yeah.
Reason. Yeah. So.
I think it's been going back and forth from 13.5 to 14.5 because he's consistently been going over it now for 4 or 5 games in a row. So obviously I'm expecting the books to bump up the number, and sure enough, they did bump it up to 15.5. I don't think that's high enough. Well, Ross will like this one because Ross brought this up with Peyton Pritchard. Check out his plus minus. Well, Lively was plus 19 in game one, by far the highest plus minus of any player on the floor that game. His counterpart, Gafford, minus 15 plus minus, by far the worst of any player in the game. So if that doesn't signal to you that he's going to continue to get the minutes, I don't know what will. However, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. Like I said, they bumped up his points and rebounds to 15.5. But because he's not a guy that gets a lot of assists, the PRA is only 16.5. When I say he doesn't get a lot of assists, he averaged over 1 assist per game in the regular season. He's averaging 1.5 in the postseason, and he's had 9 assists in his last 4 games. So the way I look at this, it's, one higher, 16.5, one higher than 15.5. I feel pretty comfortable he's going to get at least 1, and it's not going to hurt us. With a pretty strong chance he's going to get 2 or 3, and it's going to help us, giving us better value taking the PRA instead of the points and rebounds at 15.5.
Yeah,
so
you might not even need an assist, Jess, the way it's going, the way he's playing.
No, but if they're going to give it to us, Ross, we're going to take it.
You're right, exactly. I'm just making the point that you could win this without even getting an assist and worrying about it. And I mean, but if they're gonna, what's the odds on this?
It's minus 115, 16.5 points, rebounds, assists. And like I said, that's just one higher because his points and rebounds is 15.5. So
yeah, and if you, Sean, you missed the show on Wednesday, and I hope your son's okay. By the way, is everything good in that regard?
He's all right. He's sore. He was make a turn. He was rear-ended, so the car got totaled. He got hit from behind, and so he's. I mean, you
can replace a car. You can't replace your kid.
So I'm asking him. He's just sore, whatever. I mean, there's nothing we can really do. It's all. I just he's got football in 2 weeks, and he's a center. So then I'm going to see what it is. Is he still sore in 2 weeks? He's got some. It's a back and shoulders or whatever. There's nothing you can really. He did tests. There's nothing broken, but. That doesn't.
And he's a young man. I mean, they'll recover. Mentally is another story because I know I was rear-ended and my car got totaled. And if it wasn't for the fact I was driving a Fleetwood Cadillac back in the early 90s, I would have been dead. And to this day, Sean, when I stop at a light or stop to make a turn, I am very cognizant of what's coming from behind.
So he's that's what he said. He's like, I'm just watching. He's looking because he's trying to make a left because the traffic's coming. So and there's nowhere to. There's a shoulder, and he's just looking. He's like, this person's not slowing down. And he said he was just watching every second. He's like, look, this is trying to turn, can't turn. Looks up, it's still barreling down on him.
Yeah, these kids, who knows if they're on their cell phone or whatever the case may be.
That's what I said. She's like, was the lady on her cell phone? He's like, I don't know. I just saw it just coming in slow motion, he said.
Yeah. Well, in any event, I'm glad he's okay.
Yeah.
And like I said, you could always replace material things. You can't replace loved ones. Jesse's watching European soccer. I could tell he must have a pick on the game. But any event. You're so easy to read. Jesse, I want to play poker with you, man. Anyway.
I was waiting for my coffee order to come in.
Anyway, Sean, we were talking the other day because Jesse had Peyton Pritchard over 8.5 points, over 9 points in the game. 9.5, whatever, 9 or 9.5. He scored 8 points in the first 10 minutes of the game. And then he didn't score the rest of the way and hardly played in the third quarter and didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. And one thing, we said, well, let's look at his plus minus. Maybe he was a liability defensively. And sure enough, he was minus 15. So that's where we're going with that to bring you up to speed. But anyway, your thoughts in terms of Jesse's pick here on Derek Lively.
I like it. I'm looking for it. I just jumped on the site. I'm going to try to find his PRA here.
Well, he just told you 16.5.
Yeah, but he can't put it in for me, so I'm going to look.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought you were second guessing what the line.
No, I'm looking to follow my guy here on this PRA.
All right, Jesse. Take a break from watching soccer and fill us in on your other prop play.
Well, we got one player from Dallas, so let's get somebody from Minnesota and who better than Anthony Edwards? I did give out another pick on Anthony Edwards on the last show to have more 3-pointers than Luka, and Sean would have loved this pick because I build it as, hey, this is a coin flip, but we're getting plus 140 on Luka. Sean would have been so proud of me.
Yes.
Sorry, we're getting plus 140 on Edwards. Coin flips at plus 140. That's right up Sean's alley. That was for the series. And in game one, Edwards had 5 made threes. Luka had 3. So they're both hitting about 40% in the playoffs. And Anthony Edwards has 1 more made 3 than Luka. Luka's played 1 more game. I just think this setup with Minnesota in a revenge spot, Minnesota at home, Edwards really focused on taking a lot of shots. He's getting around 10 attempts per game. I think he's attempting more 3-point shots than Luka. And with Luka still, he looked good in game one, don't get me wrong. But you don't see him put back-to-back big games together in these playoffs that frequently. And there's a little bit shorter rest period between the final game against Oklahoma City and game one of this series. He had plenty of time to sort of rest up. We'll see what he looks like 48 hours later after game one. I'm expecting a little bit of regression from Luka, and I just think it's a better spot for Anthony Edwards to have a big game. And the odds are pretty fair, I think, at minus 115 money line.
I don't mean to do a Teddy covers on you, but are you concerned at all that Reggie Miller kept saying late in that game that Anthony Edwards did not look physically right? Is that any kind of concern for you going into game 2?
I try to ignore everything Reggie Miller says. He's a clutch sports plant, so I don't trust Reggie Miller. But I don't know. He shot the ball.
You were going to say you ignore everything Teddy Covers says. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, Reggie Miller. I guess if he's if he's not as athletic as he normally is, maybe that's why he's shooting more deep threes and not penetrating as much. Because if you look at his field goal attempts the last 3 or 4 games, he's not attempting many field goals that aren't 3-point shots. So
that's a great point.
It might work to my favor.
Yeah, great point. Great answer. Sean, any thoughts on Anthony Edwards having more 3-pointers tonight than Luka Doncic? And that's at odds of minus 115. And yes, Jesse made a plus money pick on Wednesday's show. I wanted to tape that segment, and I wanted to keep it for safekeeping for a long time. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm just looking at what Jess said about the 3 points. Miller said he wasn't, healthy. Maybe something's wrong with him. And who knows? 12 out of 18 threes, 12 out of 18 shots threes, 10 out of 24, 9 out of 17 his last 3 games. So maybe there's something there with that. But also his shooting, again, I have no opinion on that part. I understand, like, Luka, shorter rest, probably a worse game, I guess he could have. But the Edwards poor shooting, and again, and I think if I could lead into my game with this as well, because I got to decide on this one.
Yep.
I had the Mavs in that the first game. I had the under, thinking, all right, Mavs are in a good spot. They're a little more rested from Minnesota coming off of a game 7, but also a huge comeback win, big emotional win. So that's where you think they're going to have a little kind of flat spot, forcing some things, or just a bad game. But I'm going to come back either way here on the Mavericks tonight. Luka and Kyrie, this is how the team goes. As much as, Derek Lively's solid there, and, who's that? PJ Walker's or PJ Washington. Those 2 pieces is why I picked them to beat the Clippers, to get to this Western Conference Championship game. So they go, the team goes. And as much as Minnesota's building, now the pressure's on them a little bit here. It's not like they're a house money where we're the young guys on the block team. You are the favorites to win this series. You're the favorites in game 1. You're the favorites here in game 2. Still another higher. It's 5.5. It was 4 last time. Now it's gone up. And if there's any, I know Jesse say he doesn't really believe in what Reggie Miller. I say, but that's a good point. Jesse had brought up he's shooting a lot more threes. Maybe he's not 100%. Maybe he's a little banged up and doesn't want to go in for the contact for that extra little bit. I'm going to take the Mavs here in the points just based on both teams play good defense. We had an ugly game one. And also, as that game did go over, and I thought that'd be an under one myself. I had Dallas in the under in that game. Both teams didn't shoot all that well, especially from three in that game. So maybe they adjust a little bit more here. Even if the T-Wolves shoot a little better, I think the Mavs also shoot a little better themselves. I'm taking the Mavericks in the points. I'm taking the points in this series. And when it shifts to the other side, I'll probably be on the T-Wolves getting points. Points in defensive games, sign me up.
Yeah, two good defensive teams. Minnesota been pretty much number one defensively in the NBA all year. And Dallas, like I've alluded to on several occasions, and they showed it again in game one, they were probably the most improved defensive team over the last quarter of the season. Yep. I got a reserved comment here, Jesse, because I got the winning side at gamblersworld.net tonight on this game. You can get it, folks, for $35 right now. And like every pick that we give out, whether it be a single game or multi-game daily pick, our picks are guaranteed, even our subscription plans of 30 days or less, which, by the way, the NBA playoff package the rest of the year is now priced at $109. So you can get that, and it'll take you right through the finals. But your comments, Jesse, because I can't say much on this one.
Yeah, I don't mind Sean's take at all. I do have a play on Minnesota for the first quarter money line, that is, though. And that's just a go-to play for me coming off of a loss. Game at home, I expect them to come out strong. When this line opened, it wasn't 5.5. I think there was 4.5s on the board at opening. A little bit more affordable if you wanted to back the T-Wolves in this revenge spot. But, like Sean says, you're getting points. 5.5 does seem like a big number when it was down to 3.5 by closing for game one. And, if Luka and Kyrie are both healthy and playing well, this is going to be a tough series, and it could go 6 or 7. And Dallas may well pull it off. I did come into this series thinking Minnesota, but, I was thinking Luka's still banged up, and Kyrie has not been that dependable, really. I mean, I was kind of shocked to see him go off for 30 in game one. But, I can't argue with Sean on this take. But one more thing. Yeah. I want to know what Ninja in the chat, what do you think of the Celtics? Give me your opinion on the Celtics, buddy.
It's going to be a Purdue. It's going to be – who was he picking on in college basketball? It was Purdue in college basketball. Purdue. And it's whatever. And then he jumped on to somebody else in college basketball. So, yeah, I'm curious to hear what he says in that regard. In any event, all right, so Sean likes Dallas plus 5.5 over Minnesota. Jesse's two prop plays, Derek Lively II over a combined 16.5 points, rebounds, and an assist. He also likes Anthony Edwards to have more 3-point makes tonight than Luka Doncic, and he's laying 115 on that bet. So there you have it, and I'll get to my pick, and we'll go as quickly as possible here and then get to all your questions, folks. Thank you for being patient. I'm going to look at the total. It's 207.5. Guys, I get a lot of flack because I'm a numbers guy, and I'm not married to trends. It's just a specific source of why I like a pick. But I think you guys know me by now and heard me enough through the course of football and basketball season to know the longer the season goes on and the bigger the sample size I get, the more I pay attention to in-season trends. Now, you may say, all right, Ross, well, the playoffs are totally different than the regular season. And you would be right. And there's a lot of specific areas that I would say that I would ignore because it is the playoffs. However, this is a difference when you're a numbers guy and you do this professionally. And I'm not going to be right all the time. But just to clarify, there's pertinent numbers, there's pertinent trends, and then there's ones that are either coincidental or they're irrelevant. Okay, so here's some pertinent trends when it comes to Minnesota scoring 106 or less in their previous game. The T-Wolves have gone 6-0 to the over, 6-0 to the over in their last 6 games after they scored 105 or less, and they allowed 105 or less. They lost game 1, 108 to 105. Those games had a combined 231.8 points scored per game. Minnesota's also gone 12-4 to the over this year, just after scoring 105 or less in their previous game. An average of about 225 points scored per game. Minnesota's gone 4-0 to the over this year when coming off a straight-up favorite loss in which they scored 105 points or less. Those games average close to 232 points per game. And they've also gone 7-0 to the over this year, coming off a straight-up favorite loss in which they scored 106 or less in their previous game, and the current total is 221.5 or less like it is tonight. So those, to me, are all pertinent numbers that show you that when Minnesota has a bad offensive game, they pretty much pick it up offensively, and because their totals are on the lower side than most in the NBA, because they're a number one defensive team in the NBA for the better part of this season, there's some value in going over the total. Now, here's an impertinent number, okay? And then we'll get to your questions. Dallas has played 12-1 to the under this year off a straight-up underdog win. Game 1, they win 108-105. They were a underdog of 4.5 points or 4, whatever number you got. But here's the caveat here. Yes, they went 12-1 to the under off a straight-up dog win all year long. But the average total in those 13 games was 232.8. And the average amount of points scored in those games was 221.9. This total is 207.5. So to me, that 12-1 is impertinent because the average total in those 13 games is 25 points higher than it is tonight. And the average amount of points scored in those 13 games is 14 points higher, 14.4 points higher per game than what we saw than the total is tonight. So that, to me, is a deceiving and misleading trend. Now, the only time they went over was in their last time in a situation. Okay, they came off a straight-up underdog win in Game 5 at Oklahoma City, and then they followed that up with a 117-116 home win, and the game went over the total of 208.5. See the difference here? Off a straight-up underdog win, the only over in the 13 games, but the total in that game, 208.5, Sean. It wasn't 232.8 like the average total was in the prior 12 games. So
yes,
I'm going over the total of 207.5, Sean.
So I said both teams didn't shoot really well. I'm on the over. I got it myself, 207. I'm with you. That game looked so bad. And you see some of the numbers like, okay, these guys shot well. I'm not arguing. I got the over myself. So I'm glad I'm on the same side as you. I was like, kind of like, oh boy, I hope he's with me on this one.
Yeah.
But I got it.
You
got it. It's a premium play. It's on the site. You don't have to buy it. Well, actually, I just had a 3-pack of baseball anyway up, so there's no NBA.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse, you see, I mean, some people will criticize me with the trends, but you can't mirror yourself, because if you look on the surface and see 12-1 to the under off a straight up dog win, automatically you tend to believe, well, you got to start leaning toward an underplay here with Dallas in this situation. But that's why numbers are important. Okay, because you got to look inside the numbers or do a deep dive and find out, okay, 12-1 to the under, but what was the average total in those games?
Yep. And
how many points were scored per game? And what's the total tonight? Jesse?
Yeah, it sounds so simple, and it sounds like, of course, Ross, when you say they've gone over in X amount or they've gone under in X amount of games, but what was the number? And you got to examine and compare what the number was in those games that they went over and compare it to this number. But it is one of the most common mistakes in sports betting, and not just amongst novice sports bettors, but a lot of pros also make this mistake. They quote stats that are irrelevant because the numbers that they're using in those stats don't jive with the current number. Sometimes the personnel is different because of injuries. And if you're not digging deeper, if you're going to use any stats, any trends, you got to be cognizant that they're only applicable. They're not worth anything if there's a situation where the numbers don't add up. It's not they've gone over a number that's far lower or under a number that's far higher, and you need to have the same personnel on the floor as well. I will cite story time, kids.
Sure.
The Detroit Tigers, in about a decade ago, they went over in 18 straight games, and I bet the over in about 16 or 17 of those 18 games. And I was at Covers. I was working for Covers at the time, and they wrote an article about it, and they interviewed me, and they asked me why I kept betting the over. I said, well, they never moved the total up. The total was 8.5 or 9 in all those games. You would have thought that it would got up to 10 or 10.5 when they've gone over in 18 straight games. But the Tigers didn't have a great offense that year, just a terrible bullpen and a terrible pitching staff. And 18 straight overs.
When they asked you that question, you know what your answer should have been?
It's a secret.
Because I'm Jesse damn cool Schule. That's why. I don't need an explanation. Anyway, all right. Before we get to the questions and comments, real quick, folks.
Hey, Ross, real fast.
Go ahead, Sean.
That's not just for baseball. Jesse brought up the baseball. You brought up the NBA. That's for a lot of things. Like people just blindly go like, "Oh, look at this! They're on a 13-3 underrun." Well, I mean, that was last year. That was a different quarterback.
The 2-minute handicap is what I call that. People who think just look at a trend sheet and come up with a pick and not look any further. Yeah, you're right, Sean.
It's a different time of year.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The Pacers game. The Pacers total was crazy. Like, why is this one lower compared to higher? I mean. Come on, folks. This is basic. This is kind of basic kind of stuff. Like we look at it as it's playoff time and it's a different kind of reaction. Yeah. You got different looks. You got to look into the numbers. Come on.
I mean, the totals, guys. I mean, we've been talking about this all along, Chip brought it up yesterday. You look at the average totals in the head-to-head matchups during the regular season, and then when these teams play in the playoffs, and we're seeing 15, 20 points lower than what we saw in the play. Now, there's a reason for that, right? The books aren't that generous, all right? They're not. But by the same token, you got to take that all into account. That's the adjustment that's made at the playoff time. Now, you got to determine, is this an over adjustment? Is this something I'm willing to do, or are they begging you to take the over? These are all the things that you have to think of, but you have to dig deep. That's why we do it full time and you don't, So in any event, it's very important you hit the like button because my owner, Jim Quinn, and my producer sat there putting a lot of pressure on me for crying out loud. I'm going to start drinking on the show because there's so much pressure. So just hit that like button. And also, there's a subscribe button right underneath. Just hit the subscribe button. You're watching the damn show. You get giving us all kinds of compliments on the show for the most part, and we appreciate it, okay? Hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free. There's no strings attached. There's no hidden agenda. And while you're at it, go into your YouTube settings and click on the alert notification bell, and you'll be alerted immediately upon any of our 5 podcasts going up on our great channel. So there you have it, folks. Don't ask for a lot from you guys. Once in a while we ask you to buy picks when we're hot, and some of you people out there still just don't see the light, and you're only penalizing yourself. You're not penalizing me or Jesse or Sean. All right. Samuel Fleming, I think he's a first timer. No, guys? Samuel, thank you for joining us today. Favorite part of the day, listening to you guys and taking valuable advice. I'm glad you said that, Samuel, because we've been professing right along. It's not all, and Jesse, I'll get to you right in a second here. It's not.
No, I was just signaling to Samuel that I appreciated what he was saying. That's all.
Oh, I thought you were against. There was a foul in the soccer game or something. Anyway, Samuel, I really appreciate your comment. I know the guys do too. because, we give out a lot of free picks on the show. And the free picks, again, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, Sean, right? But it's business 101. If people pay us a subscription plan, they pay us. People pay for our picks online. It's business 101, and that we don't give those picks out for free. So at the end of the day, I know that myself, I can't speak for both of these guys, but I'll let them chime in. If I got 5 picks written down as possibilities for premium picks, then I do another deep dive and I leave 1 or 2 of them out. Those 1 or 2 are the picks I'm looking at to use as a free pick. Okay. Now, do we want to win all of those? Absolutely. Okay. But what you could take from listening to our analysis on those free picks, even though they're not the best picks of the day for us, is how we arrived at that decision. And maybe if you lose the game, you could still learn something. You could say, geez, Jesse gave out that pick, but his reasoning was tremendous. And I could see why he liked it. And I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. I'm going to write that down to look at all other future situations that may occur like this. Jesse?
Absolutely, Ross. I had a guy hit me up on Twitter just before the show, sent me a write-up for his baseball analysis, and he said, what do you think? I said, well, what do you want me to do? Give you like a grade? He said, yeah. And, he was asking me for advice on how to handicap games. And I gave him anybody hits me up on Twitter, wants to ask me a question, I'm more than happy to engage. And you can learn a lot from listening to us give out free picks. Obviously, our best picks are going to be the ones that are up for sale. I'd be happy if my free picks won just as much as my paid picks. But at the end of the day, I got to save my best ones for the paid picks because that's how I put food on the table.
Yeah, Sean, my phone number is still up at my website, and if you do a Google search on Ross Benjamin Sports, my phone number is readily available, my cell phone number. And I get a call the other day. Ross, yes. I don't want to mention the guy's name. He was from North Carolina because, it wasn't something I wasn't used to over the years. I've been watching you guys on the Winner's Circle. Man, oh man, you've been hitting a lot of these free picks. I'm so impressed. And I said, well, thank you. Is there anything else that I could do for you? And I appreciate your support. He said, yeah. He said, can you give me 1 or 2 of your premium picks and I'll try them out? And I says, well, wait a second. You're telling me how good we're doing on free picks, which means you're betting them, which means you're making money. And now you want me to give you 1 or 2 premium picks. And if they win, then you'll think about registering. Anyway, Sean, I scratched my head. That was polite as possible. But, I wanted to say the only thing I give away free is my phone number, but I got to stop that line too. Go ahead, Sean.
Oh, yeah, the old free picks. Some of my free picks are premiums because I usually have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because I'm not I have a lot of games I bet. I like to bet. I'm a bettor, as much as I'm a pro capper kind of guy. I like to throw out games. But it's difficult because they see different records. Like, well, how come this record is – I keep track of the free pick record because I want them to win. I could easily not put it on there, tell you that I lost in hockey, but that's not the way to do it. But, the free picks, I want them to win. I wouldn't tell you. I wouldn't say it if I didn't want them to win. And again, we're on sites that we're just assigned games sometimes, and we try to hit it with a little caveat of, I bet this game. I don't like this game kind of stuff. But when it's playoff time, listen, I'm going to give out a game. Chances are I probably bet it. So we've always want the free picks to win. But come on, what are you doing? It's not crazy amount of money. Even if you just buy one of us for a week, it's just supporting the channel that you come in here every day, and whether it's us 3 or Chip or Doug or Paul or who's ever on the show, it's just supporting the channel.
Some other guy said, get a full-time job. He wrote on, why don't you guys get a real job? We got a real job, buddy. We got a real job. We've been doing it for 20 years. Well, why do you sell picks if you're so good at betting on your own? Well, bottom line is that you bet on your own. And my theory has always been is you have a betting bankroll. I've always profess that. We've discussed it on this show. You should have a betting bankroll aside from all your bill money and any other money. A betting bankroll is something that then in the worst case scenario, if you lose it, it's not going to change the quality of your life. So if you're really good at betting on your own games and you're selling your own games and you're sharing the wealth with other people and they're paying you, that builds your betting bankroll, right? Okay. And it's also called making a living. There's a lot of experts in different fields that, probably could do it all on their own, but they share their expertise with other people so they could benefit from it as well. So hopefully that answers that question. John Lim, John, Sean answered your other question about, I see you answered your
We're talking about our eating habits.
Yes. So we'll get right to the sports question if you don't mind, John. Jaylen Brown, prop for Eastern Conference Final MVP. Good bet, guys, or not? Based on he's coming off a 40-point performance, so that might be an overreaction to say good bet today, right?
But for what, even money? I mean, I guess you want to. He should win it. They're up 2-0, and the guy's off. He's scoring 30 points a game in his series.
Yeah, I think that's a better question. Let's see, for example, if you like him and you want to make a bet on him to win the MVP for the Eastern Conference Finals, let's see what happens in Game 3. And bottom line is the worst time to make this bet right now, I think, is after a 40-point performance. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a prop guy. Maybe Jesse can answer this better. Sean dabbles in once in a while. But I like to see a Game 3. What if Indiana wins and he only goes for 21? Now the odds are going to be much better, okay? So, Jesse, your take. You're better at this than I am, so.
I got to admit, when I first saw it come up on the screen, I said, this is something I could maybe talk myself into. But I just checked the odds at Bet365, minus 135 to win the Eastern Conference Final MVP. No value there, in my opinion. And since Ross doesn't like conspiracy theories, and Sean and I do, I'll just bring up a conspiracy theory. It seems to me that the networks and the NBA are heavily invested in promoting Jason Tatum as this next superstar and the Celtics as this next dream team. So I think if it's the tie is going to go to Jason Tatum. If Tatum has one good game and Brown has if their stats are similar, they're going to give it to Tatum because they want him to be the face of the league.
Didn't he have 38 last game, Tatum, in the overtime? Like, he had a big game in Game 1.
So no, he had 36, Sean.
Okay.
26 in regulation, 10 in overtime, half of those at the free throw line. He scored 12 points at the free throw line. He was 2 of 10 from beyond the arc, 1 of 9 from three-point range in regulation. So if you take away the overtime, he had a below-average game.
What is Pascal Siakam's odds to win the MVP in the Eastern Conference Finals, if indeed they even have odds on him?
60 to 1, Ross.
Yeah. I mean, I would be more inclined to make a small bet there because this guy's been lights out since the playoffs started. And if Indiana happens to come back in a series, like Jesse was predicting they would, I don't know if he still feels that way after Game 2. But, I mean, that's the kind of bet I would look at for just a small wager. I mean, at 60 to 1, what do you got to lose? I mean, again, what like Jesse said, value at minus 135 after Game 2 and after a 40-point performance.
Not much.
And again, Sean, it's not Jason Tatum, as opposed to what Jesse says, and I respect what he says, but I don't wholeheartedly agree with his assessment of Jason Tatum in Game 2 because he didn't need to carry the load. And I think the great thing about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Sean, is when they recognize one of them is having a night, for lack of a better phrase. They back off, and he still scored 23, 6, and 5 and shot 45% from the field anyway. Sean?
No. Oh, yeah, agreed. Yeah. Who's that? The guy gets hot. They go through either one of them.
Yeah. Jesse, go ahead.
I just want to point out in the dying minutes when the Celtics cleared their bench, they left Tatum in garbage time, and he scored like a half a dozen points to fly. And I'm sitting there looking at it going, why on earth would you want Tatum in this game? You're up by 20, 2 minutes left, and sure enough, he's padding his stats, and I think that's why. And when I watch Tatum play, I see him. He's at the top of the outside the 3-point line, and he really wants to. It's like he really wants to pad his. He looks like a player that is trying to pad his stats.
Okay, what was his plus minus in game 1 or game 2? I'm sorry. Do we have that?
Sure, it was all right.
Hold on.
I'm just curious.
I mean, he probably played most of the game, and they won
Tatum?
by 16. So
Tatum's plus minus 0.
Okay.
That's horrible. That is horrible.
Jaylen Brown plus 18.
Yeah, that's surprising. So, obviously, they weren't too happy with his performance. That's a guy, again, that's a guy you depend on. You're consider one of your
Brown
better
played
defenders.
6 less minutes, too.
Yeah, so
Plus 18.
that's a concern. So right there, I would say, Jesse, if you're going to lean on anything to say you're disappointed with Jason Tatum's performance, that would be the key right there, because it's not his shooting, his rebounds and assists. Those are fine. But like we talked with Peyton Pritchard the other day, why didn't he play after he got off to such a great start? Well, it pans out he's minus 15 is a defensive liability. All right, let's get to our next question. John has another one. Boston always have one letdown game. Good to assume that was in game 1. Yeah, I guess I can make the case, and we can make the argument, maybe these guys would disagree with me, that was a good spot for Indiana from the stake that they only had 1 day of rest, and Boston was a bit rusty in that game. They had 4 or 5 days of rest, and that usually doesn't catch up to a team till later on in the series, like in game 2 rather than game 1. And Boston was a lot sharper in game 2. Now, Jesse will tell you he doesn't think that's the case, and that's okay. But anyway, your thoughts, Sean?
I say he doesn't think it's the case because it was such a you say lackluster. I mean, they shot 53%. It was just maybe you expect so much from them that it doesn't look like they're putting much effort out there. But it could have. Is that the spot? They are good for. I mean, they lost 2 games. They lost both game 2s. So maybe you think they're due for a letdown.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was a spot where, again, like you said, they were rusty. Indiana's off of game 7. Indiana gave them a run. Even this game, though, let's be honest. You look at halftime, this game was a close game. It wasn't like some kind of big blowout. I don't know. I think Indiana's got one in them to maybe steal one, but it remains to be seen. I mean, the Celtics.
I mean, look, the Bulls in their heyday when they were getting all those championship runs, the Spurs, they didn't go win 16 games all by decisive margins, Now, yes. Jesse pointed out Denver last year. That might be something that's sticking out in his head right now, and he's comparing it to. Is that fair? I don't know. I think it has more to do, and Jesse, I can't speak for Jesse, but I think it has more to do in the back of his mind how disappointing Boston's playoff performances have been. Not so much playoff performances as a whole, but not achieving what they should have achieved in the past couple of years in the playoffs. Jesse?
I think part of it is the media coverage, the fact that they had such a great record. I mean, they were obviously the best team in the NBA during the regular season, but they play in the Eastern Conference, and sometimes I think that's overlooked. When you play in the Eastern Conference, you're playing against much weaker teams. And I don't like their coach. I'm not a big fan of Jason Tatum. I think he's inflated by the media as well. Jaylen Brown, I got nothing negative to say. When the Celtics are at their best, they got the depth. They've got a lot of great role players. Derek White's great.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yep.
They're a good team, a great team. I don't think they're as good as Denver. I think if Denver had have beat Minnesota and got to the final, I would have been all over Denver. I don't think they have anybody as good as Joker or anybody as good as Luka. I don't think Tatum is in the same conversation as those two guys.
Well, collectively, this year we're talking about. You know, I have a hard time really wrapping my head around the fact that you don't think they're as good as Denver when Denver had. Did they? No, they didn't have home court advantage in that series, or did they? Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. They did.
And they can't beat a youthful team with a lot of inexperience like Minnesota. I guess
that was an awful strange series, though, Ross. I mean, Minnesota looked like an invincible team in the first two games. Then Denver looks completely invincible in the next three games. Then things sort of settle in games 5 and 6, sort of look sort of the way you'd expect them to. Game 7, Denver blows them out in the first half and then blows it late. It was weird. It was a weird series, the way things unfolded there.
Sean, Jesse's not willing to give Boston a pass, but he is Denver, is what he's saying.
Well, Denver's got a championship and a should-be 4-time MVP, so that's why.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we talked about this the other day. I mean, the Celtics have been in, 6 conference finals with 1 championship run.
Yeah.
I mean, so they've underachieved a bit. I know. Listen,
I think that's more. I think that's in his mind more than they didn't look good in game 2 after a 16-point win. But
also losing those games, if you lose to the Bucks or somebody, the Pacers are not on that level. The Knicks wouldn't have been on that level. The Sixers might have been on that kind of level because if they're playing the Sixers, that means everybody's healthy for the Sixers and they're playing well. The Pacers are not that team. The Pacers are a good team. They don't play defense. This is the conundrum we talked about for the previous 2 series and in this series.
Yeah.
So it's theirs to lose. They're the best team remaining. They won the conference by 15. They were favorites to win back in November. The 2 teams in the West were not there. This team from the East was nowhere near that kind of talk. They should win. I mean, it's but again, winning and covering, we're about covering games. So Boston can win it all. If we're making money covering with them or against them, that's all we care about.
What was your pick in game 2, Jesse? I forget. Your premium pick.
I had the over.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the over. So
okay.
That's what I had.
So there's no emotion involved in your statements about Boston then.
I'm a little bit bummed out about the Halliburton injury, but I also.
Well, yeah, I am too. I mean, look I don't care who you want to win the series. I don't care I don't like to see star players go down at this time of year. You know, it takes away from. I'll say one thing about Indiana, and Halliburton being out is really bothers me because going into game 2, I think they're one of the funnest teams to watch in the NBA. In this day and age where we see, you know, either you're really good defensively or you're really good offensively, or you take too much of the deliberate. The bottom line is this team likes to get up and down, and they'll drag you into that type of affair. And I just think they're so much fun to watch. I do. All right, let's get to our next question. Big BG4, 1986. How are you, my man? People really doubt Boston to win in the finals. LOL. Yeah, it is a little bit of a laugh, okay? But there's some quality teams. The 2 teams in the West are pretty good quality teams, and they both play a hell of a lot better defense, big guy, than what the Celtics are facing right now. So that may be a reason why you're getting some hesitancy from people. But Jesse, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the West is best. I said Denver, and they're not going to be there. But you know, I'm actually, part of me is cheering for Dallas to make it because the Celtics will be a bigger favorite against Dallas than they would against Minnesota, likely. And if Luka and Kyrie are both healthy and playing well, I'm not sure that Dallas should be an underdog. I mean, they will be an underdog, but I think they can beat the Celtics. I really do.
Yeah, but you know what? Dallas is a number 5 seed, but are they really a number 5 seed, Sean? You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, you had teams like them and the Clippers and the Lakers, and more. You look at these teams like, how are they so far down the line? because they play load management games and guys are banged up, and it's just, you got to throw the seeding out the window. Like, guys, it's the resting is ridiculous. It has a big effect on that. I mean, the Mavericks are not a 5 seed. That's why these games are basically pick'ems here in these series.
So, do you agree with Jesse that if they play Minnesota, they'll be a lesser of a favorite than when they play Dallas? I'm not so sure it makes a difference at this point.
No, because the Celtics are going to be juiced up because they're the Celtics. And Porzingis is back. Look at this.
The quality of the opponent, being Dallas or Minnesota.
And they'll be probably a little. I think they'll probably be favored more against Dallas, because the perception is that Minnesota's the 1 seed and Dallas is the 5 seed, and
they're the number 2 seed actually.
Minnesota was the 2. I'd say they were the 2. They had one loss, one different loss. I mean, either one.
I don't think. To me, Dallas is not a number 5 seed. I mean, how many?
But they're going to
play without Luka
this year? Porzingis is back, and they're going to be like Kyrie's going to choke against his old team. There'll be plenty of. Yeah. Listen, you see the comments coming up, and nobody thinks the Celtics lose a game here. They think the Celtics sweep, and they go in and they win.
It's just Boston is the best remaining team. Their only problem is they're their own worst enemy. They tend to lose focus. I think it's a coaching thing. Don't think it would be like that if Udoka was the coach. Well, if Udoka didn't get in a situation he got himself in, that
he did lose when he was the coach. So
and the bottom line is that on paper they're the best remaining team. Especially when you look at the records. Are they their own worst enemy? Yes. Okay. They've shown to be their worst enemy at times in isolated spots this year, like we just discussed. They lost game 2 against Miami. They lost game 2 against help me out, guys, in their next series, Cleveland. And then the following 3 games, they blow people out. Are they going to be their own worst enemy 4 times in a series that cost them a series? Is my question, Sean.
I go back to they are the best team in the East. To lose a game, is it the focus? Is it maybe the other team just gets you once? It's tough to just dominate. Have we not established that? I mean,
again,
team's going to lose.
There's a difference between having a letdown and losing 4 games in a series, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean,
how about this, guys? So if it's Dallas will go to the finals. They'll have upset the number 1 seed in the Western Conference.
Number 2.
They'll have beaten. No, Oklahoma City was number 1.
Right. Okay.
And the LA Clippers with Kawhi Leonard for a time.
Yeah.
And then they would beat the number 2 seed, Minnesota. So battle tested by the time they get there. Whereas the Celtics,
are they really a number 5 seed if that happens, Jesse? Do you treat them as a number 5 seed when you look at those series?
I think the bookmakers will, and I think the people in the chat are treating them that way. Everybody thinks it's the Celtics. Everybody's planning the parade already. That's why I'm anti-Celtics. It's not that I think they're terrible or anything, or they can't win, or they won't, or not even that they won't win. I just don't think we should be planning the parade already. They don't have any championship pedigree. They don't have a coaching pedigree for championships either. They've got the history. The Celtics brand name has history, but this current core of players and coaches hasn't done anything to deserve it for me to start planning the parade already. And if Minnesota makes it to the finals, they won on the road in Denver in a game 7. They're battle tested. They've shown me that they can do that. Celtics haven't shown me. They've shown me they can win a bunch of games in the regular season and beat a bunch of inferior opponents in the Eastern Conference. That doesn't impress me much.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know what the projected lines are right now of a Boston versus Dallas.
Well, we could just look at the futures.
And the futures. That's what I mean. If Boston against Dallas and Boston against Minnesota, I'm going to go out on a limb, especially now that Dallas is up 1-0. I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's not going to be much of a difference as to how high or low a favorite Boston is against either one of those teams.
Well, this is what I'm talking about, Ross. The Celtics are a 2-1 favorite to win the championship. Dallas is plus 360 and Minnesota is plus 460. So
Dallas is actually, if they play Dallas, they're going to be lesser of a favorite against Dallas based on what you just said.
that's because Dallas is up 1-0 though.
Okay. All right. So if it goes 7 games, and what would be the odds if it's going to game 7 at Minnesota? Okay. I want to look at, I can't believe that it would switch from that difference of 100. I would say it's going to be slightly a favorite for Minnesota in that regard. So my point being, Jesse, is I don't see the difference on whoever Boston faces in the finals if they're fortunate enough to get by Indiana, which it looks like they will, okay, as to what the series odds will be against either one of those teams. I think it'll be in the same neighborhood. That's just my call. And, again, I'm not a futures guy. I'm not a props guy, but I'm a common sense guy too. So Mar wants to wish us guys happy Memorial Day weekend. And you know what, Mar? Thank you. We appreciate it. We hope you and your family have a safe and enjoyable Memorial Day weekend. And that goes for all of you out there watching. I apologize for not getting to that sooner. From all of us here at the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast and channel, I'd like to wish you and your families a very, very safe and enjoyable Memorial Day weekend. We're all going over Jim Quinn's house. He's blowing off fireworks. Seth's buying all the beer, and then we're all set. All right. Ninja, good morning.
The Ninja.
Good morning, Ninja. Ninja, did you hear what Jesse said? We want to know. What do you think of the Boston Celtics? Overrated or not, Ninja? All right. Tyree, Boston went under team total for first half. Okay, Tyree.
That's a direct shot at me because I did have a play. Yeah, I did have a play on Boston team total over first half.
Tyree, you keep telling me and Jesse how much you love us, and then you bring up, if you look at our free pick record over the last few weeks between the both of us, we've won a hell of a lot more than we lost, yet you want to zero in on the few losses we had. So I'm not sure where you're going, Tyree, okay? At the end of the day, if you're not doing well with these free picks for whatever reason, I don't know how you're messing that up, okay? Because you'd have to, you're the kind of guy that wins the lottery and be broke tomorrow. I don't know, is that because you're bringing this stuff up. If you feel that way, then start spending some money, Tyree. We appreciate you.
Go opposite. Go opposite of us.
Right, bro. I mean, we appreciate you, man. You saying not a lot of nice things, but you did this with me yesterday as well, and I didn't say anything. You notice I didn't comment. Now you're picking on Jesse. That's the same guy you were praising last week.
Let me ask you though. I mean, some people, do they just bring it up thinking we don't address a loss?
Yeah,
that'd be one thing if we never talked about. If we just said every day we came out here and said, "Oh, we had a win yesterday," and not talk about if we had a lose yesterday. We say how we do every day.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, I don't get it, but in any event, I don't think we talk a lot about the winners we have in free picks enough. Be honest with you, because
why would we? Because we expect to win.
This is what we're supposed to do.
We should just move on. We won. That's it. We don't.
And I'll tell you exactly what Sean tells everybody. We don't win every day. We don't win every week. We don't win every month even. Okay. So we're going to lose once in a while. And again, what I just said, okay, you're getting the 4th or 5th pick, best pick down the line on a daily basis for the most part that we're giving you as a free pick. If you're not happy with it, and I don't know why you wouldn't be, because we're doing awfully well with these free picks of late, then spend some money. Then you have the right to really complain. All right. Ninja, what adjustments will these make to not think that this game wouldn't go over 207? What adjustments will these make?
You must have missed the first half of the show because we talked about going over. We both like the over.
That comment's been up there for ages. Yeah. I think he commented before you guys.
Ninja, tell us again, is Boston
that was
overrated?
Beforehand. That was it.
He thinks Boston's overrated.
Ninja, come on, tell us, buddy. Is Boston overrated?
There's a guy in the chat that says Joker is a fraud, 4-time MVP. I think we should rip that guy a new one.
I know, I'm waiting for get down there, but that's comments an hour away, though, on the timeline.
Any thoughts on the 49ers schedule?
Come on, Mar, with this crap. Niners aren't Get out of here with this. We need this in freaking May.
17
I'm all for
and 0.
futures, Mark.
17-0 for the Niners.
Jets
All right.
opening night. Take the Jets +6. That line's down to 5.5, by the way. Jets are
Andres
5.5
says
point dogs.
Mavericks and 6. Andres, thanks for chiming in.
All right.
And
bold
yeah,
take.
I mean, that's realistic, right, guys? Mavericks and 6. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I wouldn't put Minnesota to bed yet, guys. They lost game 1. Okay. I just think that this is eventually going to go 7 games. I really do. I mean, that's just me. Okay, we already got to that. Ellen Cherry, I'm thinking Indiana wins the next game at home. Is now they are getting 7 points also. Any thoughts, you guys? Well, they're 6-0. The good thing is they're 6-0, 7-0 at home.
You know why? Halliburton's out. This was 4 this morning.
Yeah.
Halliburton's out for the game.
What's Boston's
record?
record?
Has it been announced already?
This line was 4. I looked at it this morning, Jesse. It's 7 now.
No, I know, but I hadn't seen it official. Like, obviously, we know he's got the hamstring issue, but is he day-to-day or questionable, or is he like, that's it, he's done?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any official that he's ruled out.
If it opened at 4 and went to 7, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say he's out on the series, but I think that there would be a good chance he's not playing.
Well, we all know that this is the same hamstring that cost him like 15 games during the regular season. So the idea that he would miss game 3 is, I mean, it's certainly a very high percentage chance that he's going to miss the game, but I hadn't seen the official. I haven't seen the official announcement.
Well, look, here's the thing, Jess. Does it really matter when it comes to who's going to win the series or how long the series is going to go? If he misses game 3 and they lose, it's not going to make a bit of difference.
Yeah, no, I mean, they have to win game 3. Otherwise it's probably going to be a sweep.
And they have been good at home, Sean. 6-0 or 7-0, Sean, at home during the post. 6-0, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
This is a different animal here, though. You're
but you know what? What's Boston's record on the road in the postseason?
Well, I haven't dug into it entirely yet, but they were 4-1 straight up at home without Halliburton in the lineup during the regular season.
Okay.
And it strikes, if you guys remember, the previous 2 series, Halliburton was banged up and he had a lot of really bad games. And I'm certain that they won games where Halliburton didn't contribute all that much.
Would you agree that Indiana is a very deep team? Offensively, anyway, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And would you agree that they might even be better defensively? They'll lose a lot of offense, okay? With T.J. McConnell on the floor, they're a better defensive team as opposed to Halliburton.
I mean, you got the injury replacement theory as well as this sets up as a bigger letdown for Boston than anything else because, you know, you just beat them you just blew them out in your own building. You're up 2-0. Their superstars out, so you're feeling like everybody's telling them that they've already won the championship. We're ready to plan the parade. How is Boston supposed to take this seriously?
Yeah. Well, you know, and the other part of the equation is the things we always talk about when a team is up 2-0 or down 2-0 and returning home is you might want to be looking at a first quarter, first half bet on Indiana in the spot. Halliburton out or not, Sean?
Yeah. Well, you're down, back to the wall, but now you got to. This is a tough hill to climb up here. It's a mountain. It's not even a hill. You got to.
Yeah, no, but I mean, let's condense it to just one isolated situation, which is game 3.
I know.
You know I mean?
Listen, am I running to bet the Pacers here on the money line because they have to win this making a series? I'm not running to bet.
Just because you have to win does not mean you are going to win. Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, that's why in the NFL, the same thing, you know. People fall into that trap when it gets down to the last few weeks of the season. Well, they need to win to stay alive. They need to win to make the playoffs.
Well, if they would have won in September when they didn't have to win, they wouldn't have to be winning now. That they're not a good team. So I mean, this is a big issue. I don't like.
Here's the other thing, you know. And I said this going into game 2 because I took Boston on the show. Yeah, I am bringing up a winner. Okay, but the thing with Boston is they're better equipped to make adjustments defensively, okay, than Indiana. And the reason I say that, they're number 30 in the NBA during regular season action in points allowed per game. They've had all season to make defensive adjustments, guys, and they haven't. You know what I mean?
Yep.
What would lead you to believe that they're going to be able to make them against not only the Celtics, but you're the best scoring team in the league. They're the number 2 scoring team in the league. So anyway, I just think
I got something for you guys.
Go ahead.
Game 3 of the series against Milwaukee, Halliburton had 18 points. He was 1 of 12 from beyond the arc, and I think he shot about 30% from the field. So they could have done without Halliburton in Game 3 against Milwaukee. They ended up winning that game in overtime.
Look, are they a better team with Tyrese Halliburton? Yes, but this is a deep Indiana team because they play so damn fast. And there's no way you can only have a 2 or 3 man bench during the entirety of the season, even if everybody's healthy, because of the pace that they play at. So just keep that in mind. I'm not making light of his absence, but Jesse makes a good point. Tatum under PRA next game because Tatum is an overrated player. Yeah,
My man.
There's Ninja. That's a Ninja we love. Well, if you listen to Jesse, you're absolutely correct. So in any event, it's the Celtics to lose. That's from Sean. We've heard him say that many. Zigzag, I learned that from Ross. Well, I don't know when you learned that, Rashawn. And I appreciate, I know you're trying to be complimentary to me, and I get that. But the zigzag theory has not worked over the last few years. It's more that you need not to overreact to what you saw the game before, but when you like a team or like a game a lot, okay, like it would have been easy to like Indiana in Game 2. They lost Game 1. They lost in overtime, but everybody who watched the game says, boy, they should have won outright, and they're getting 8.5 points. You know, you just don't want to overreact. But in terms of the zigzag theory, the old zigzag theory was really, and correct me, guys, if I'm wrong, is if you won and covered one game, you go against that team the next game. Okay. If you lost, especially if you lost by a big margin one game, and you come back as a favorite the next game, those types of situations are what we used to call be prime spots for the zigzag theory. Guys, you want to comment on the zigzag theory? And Rashawn, thank you for chiming in, man.
You know, that was a good point of the zigzag. But now it's so overblown. Like, oh, they lost. You got to take them in the first quarter next game. No. You can't just like the trends we're talking about. You just can't blindly do that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah. All right, Tom, my man. How are you, Tommy? Hi, man. Sean, prayer to your boy to heal well, physically and mentally. Yeah. I think at this point, you worry more about the mental aspect than the physical. Got a prop from a site I won't name out of respect. It's Karl Anthony Towns over 0.5 blocks, plus 160, adds 4-star play. Great show. Thank you, Tom. As always, we appreciate you, man. When you got a big guy like Karl Anthony Towns, he's not Rudy Gobert defensively, but I don't know what he averages in terms of blocks per game, but he is 7-footer. Guys, Jesse, it's right up your alley to answer that question.
Yeah, I have not been paying attention to Karl Anthony Towns and his blocks, but let's just hope for Tommy's sake that they don't review it and call it a goaltend like they did in Game 1.
Exactly.
He's had 3 blocks the last 10 games, and 2 of them came in one game versus Denver. So not. So 3 in 10 games is not where I'm running a better block. I mean, they had nice odds, but even for me, I like plus +1s. I don't even think that's even worth it.
I thought Jesse was going to say I'm not paying attention because I'm watching Manchester City against Everton. So in any event, take under Kyrie under 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists because Kyrie just sail off
the flat earth. He's not going to. You can't sail off the flat earth because the ice wall will stop him from falling out into the depths of hell.
Yeah, the thing about Kyrie is he could have low numbers in the first. He had a great first half though the other night, which was unusual in terms of what he's done this postseason. But I don't know. Kyrie's multidimensional, and it would be hard to think, guys. I know how good Luka is and how he can carry a team, but do you agree or not agree that they can't win the series unless Kyrie has a good series? Jesse?
Yeah, he needs a really good series.
Yeah, they need both Kyrie and Luka to play like superstars.
Yeah.
But
So
they both looked good in game one, so we'll see. We'll see.
well, is the under 31 and a half points, rebounds, and assists that Ninja is suggesting? You have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, you didn't need the rebounds and assists to go over in game. Or he had 30 points in game one, so that's some significant regression from game one. I don't know. I don't love it.
Was he hurt at all against the Thunder? I mean, he had two like point totals of like 13 and 10.
Well, he had a couple games in that series, if you remember, Sean. He had like 2 points at the half. And he really didn't take an initiative to. Yeah. No, he was not hurt in that series. He got off to slow starts in a couple of those games. Crazy. He even had a good game after a slow start as well. And I think that Rick Carlisle was very emphatic that when he in his post-game press conferences that he was imploring that Kyrie had to get off to a better start in the upcoming games.
Listen, he's had that. He didn't even hit this last game because he closed at 30 and a half. So he went over that game with the 30 points. But 6 games prior to that, all unders. And they were higher numbers, 34 and a half. So they've adjusted down. But if you think the Mavs are making the series, you need him to go over this 30.
Yes, Big G. BG, we appreciate you, man. Hit the like and subscribe button, y'all. And I agree emphatically. We're all for it. Sean, all right.
Well, you hit the next one. Hit the like button.
Hit the like button. Okay, Sean. Celtics will not win the finals. It's a very simple reason. Celtics have to. Oh boy, you gotta love Ninja. It sucks living in California.
Sorry to hear that, Roshan.
Is there? I mean, am I missing something here that I should know?
Maybe the sports books don't cater to people in California.
Yeah, well, that's true. This is true.
Offshore guy.
I know it's expensive to live there. Beside, boy, oh boy, the cost of living sky high, and they won't let you bet on sports. Anyway, Eric, gents, I am 8-2 off your combined free picks. More importantly, I am 6-2 with my own picks, where I use what I learned from the show to make those picks. You are all outstanding. Thank you, Eric. That's one of the most complimentary things anybody said.
We got to get this one framed
on the show.
Put on a shirt.
That's exactly what we want to do. I know that I close the show all the time by saying we want to make you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. And Eric, you're grasping on to that cliche. And congratulations to you, my friend. And congratulations to you for following our advice on this nice run we're on with free picks. I'm waiting for Tyree. Is it Tyree, Jesse, that keeps bringing in a couple losers? You guys are really good. Bought a package from Doug Upstone and gave me a 9-1 weekend recently. Good for you, Mar. Doug is he's a top flight, man. He's not on gamblersworld.net. He's the lone exception to the rule. He's been with me from the beginning. We gave him the grandfather clause. If you're going to buy from anybody at Docs, we're a little bit biased in that regard, and we would hope that you would buy from Doug. Doug is, like I said yesterday, he's been on more leaderboards over the last 20 years in sports betting than Tiger Woods has been in his career on the PGA. Blue Thunder.
Laughing at something.
Oh, yeah, sure. Blue Thunder, we're always good for a laugh, man. Chime in and tell us what we should be laughing about. Gents, roll with the Phillies, or are they due for a correction?
Nobody's due, Eric. Listen, I mean, I don't want to lay $2. It's minus 200 on the road. I bet or even a run line's 135, but you don't just say I'm going to take another team because they're due to lose. No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Jesse, he calls it a correction. You call it a regression. What's
Last I checked, the wind's blowing out at Coors today, and the Rockies have they rank last in team ERA, last in opponent batting average, and they're sending a struggling pitcher to the mound. I don't think the Phillies are due for any regression.
Yeah, I mean, with that kind of logic, I'll ask you, when you sit down to play poker and the guy has a pair of aces showing and you're trying to catch an inside straight because there's a 6-7 on the board and you have a 3 and 4, are you due because you've lost the last 10 hands in a row? You just can't bet like that. You just can't. All right. Under
over.
Yeah, I already gave out the over earlier in the show. If you want to listen to my analysis, the archive of the show will be up shortly after we get done here today. We do appreciate your comment. We do appreciate you chiming in. Jalen's played better than Tatum in 2 games so far. Yeah, but again, it runs in cycles with those 2 guys, Sean.
Well, look at his next one. Click on his next post there, because this is what we were talking about earlier. So that's what he was talking about, the Brown MVP.
That's why I placed the bet on Jaylen Brown MVP before game 1.
Okay, that's because we were talking about
fair.
The conversation was all right. We hit on that already.
Yeah, I thought you were saying let's bet on Jaylen Brown.
No.
Yeah, so you probably got much better odds than -135, I would say. So let us know what you got for odds on that, John. Eric Gents, are those promo bets on those betting sites worth it, or are they typically sucker bets?
Go opposite.
100% sucker bets.
Go opposite. Go opposite of them.
Yeah.
Jesse, go opposite.
Jesse's
this one's all Sean. Sean's equipped to answer this question.
Listen, someone posted, I think it was like a year ago, like whether I don't think I mentioned.
And this is a great question, Eric.
Yeah, and someone tracked them, and they were all losers. It was at one point I was like on a 1 in 24 run of their promo stuff.
Yeah,
like, hey, do this. Don't do that.
And the other thing, Sean brings it up all the time, is the guys that you see on, like, for example, Bleacher Report on their betting section, where they're always like, it seems like a daily basis. Somebody has a $5 parlay that needs one team to cash in for $79,000. Okay, they don't show you the millions of tickets that they're done after the first game goes off. So, in any event, Rashawn, based upon trend, I'm assuming trends.
Yeah.
Are the Dodgers a fade for the World Series because how Roberts manages during the playoffs? Well, they did manage to win one year with Roberts, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me, guys.
With an asterisk.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with the Dodgers. Listen, they're as good as they're supposed to be. They're going to win a lot of games. I mean, you want to come and bet on them to win the World Series? Well, at this point, take a flyer on the Phillies, who are red hot at 8-1. Or
what are they right now, Sean, to win it all?
The Dodgers? Oh, I have no idea.
They got to be probably up there amongst the top 3, right?
Yeah.
Right. So at the end of the day, Rashawn, I would never advise to bet a team that's near the top of the standings at this point of the season. We're not even at the halfway point.
And it's a team that was already this was a team that was supposed to win 105 games, Ross. So that's a team.
You want to find a team like the Texas Rangers were last year at this point of the season. Who else? The Arizona Diamondbacks to win the National League at this point of the season last year. Those are the types of things you should be looking for.
You should
in terms of future
bets. Like the Astros now, or the Rangers now, or Seattle, like teams that are 500 but are going to get pitchers back or hitters back, as both the Astros and Rangers are going to get guys back.
But Rashawn, thank you, man. We appreciate you, brother. You can ask any question you want, and we hope that we're helping you out with these answers. And if we don't agree with your assessments, it's not because we're being disrespectful. We're just trying to give you advice based on experience. Sports Dogma, you guys think we'll continue to see a proliferation of three-point shooting attempts? Game 3, 146 attempted already. Why is the Celtics Pacers still settled at 222? That's an extremely good question, and it's a question that it should make your antennas go up. It was 224.5 to 225.5 yesterday. I think some of the reason why it's come down to 222, I'm sure, revolves around the status of Tyrese Halliburton. And the fact that if you look at as bad as Indiana is defensively, they're far worse defensively on the road than they are at home. So, again, that's my opinion. But Jesse, without me doing a deep dive yet, Jesse, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think they're going to continue to shoot the threes, and the 222, like you said, Ross, but probably the Halliburton injury is I think that's going to get the most reaction from bettors. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I would be looking at an under at 222 though.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to know the reason why. Okay, so we're trying to think like a bookmaker here. Okay, like I always, or odds maker, like I always profess. Okay, and it's a great question. So I would think partly to do, Sean, with Halliburton status of probably being out, and number two, if you look at Indiana's defensive statistics, especially in the playoffs at home, they're nowhere near as horrible as they are on the road.
Yeah. One, I'd say the Halliburton affects it. And two, Boston gets a little streaky with their threes. Do I think we'll see a lot of 3-point shots? Absolutely. They're going to shoot threes cause that's the game now. Go out and fire a bunch of threes. I would still probably lean to the over, though. I like the over in games 1 and 2. I'd probably say game 3 as well. Pacers worse on the road defensively, but if you're going to come out and fire because you're down 0-2 in a series and you're without your best guy or second best guy or your glue guy, however you want to word how important Halliburton is to the team, somebody else is going to have to score. They're going to have to come out and fire, and Boston will have no problem coming down and taking their shots as well. So I'd still lean on the over.
So I got a text here from a personal friend of mine, Louis, who watches the show all the time, and he says, ask Jesse what's the score of the Liverpool and Arsenal game. Anyway.
The Premier League ended a week ago.
Joker is a fraud, 4-time MVP. That's what Jesse was referring to earlier.
Come on, just keep going down, Rod. There's about 80 more comments. What are we going to say about that? This is ridiculous.
Joker's not a fraud, bro. Okay, let's go. It's tired. LOL. Yay. Okay. But we do appreciate you chiming in, CT Native. Just come up with something better than that.
You see the profile picture, right? I love hip hop. And it gives you an indication of why he doesn't like the Joker. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, well, let's be careful. Let's dance around that a little bit. I had Denver.
That was my dad's move.
I had Denver game 7 with you. Horrific second half. Yeah, I also had Denver Sports Dogma, and yes, it was a horrific second half. And the thing that really was the most baffling thing is Minnesota's good defensively, but I don't think anybody would have predicted they would hold Denver to less than 100 points in 3 contests. I think even less than 90, Jesse, if I remember so much. So much for the Celtics, says Sean. Agreed, Sean. And let's get to more. All right. Sean's auditioning for the hosting job here, so he wants me to keep going, and he'll get his opportunity. Hey, Ross, Doug's free pick is Timberwolves money line. Yeah, well, pity test of Rudy. Doug loves I don't know anybody who loves those big chalks on the money line more than Jesse than Doug Upstone. So that wouldn't shock me at all. Sports Dogma, Mavs are minus 145 now to win the series, plus 361 to win the finals. Obviously, I wouldn't lay 145 with just a 1-game lead here, because I already stated it wouldn't shock me if this ends up going 7. And me and Sean had alluded to earlier, before the playoffs even began, that Dallas was a nice long shot pick. So I would tend to, I think we would both agree that it's worth a small bet right now at plus 361. Jesse?
I'd wait I'd wait till you know who's going to face the Celtics, because I think you're going to get a pretty decent payday on Dallas, regardless of. Yeah, I mean, if you just wait, I don't think the price is going to go down that much.
I'd say even if you wait a day, if it's 1-1, you'll get better odds probably, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, if you're going to ask me today with a gun to my head, what would you rather do? Yeah. Anyway, Celtics are minus 210 to win the finals. Yes, we already discussed that. Happy holiday weekend, everybody. I.O. Happy holiday weekend to you and your family as well, my friend.
Gino.
Dallas sweeps. I don't think so, but you never know. I mean, I don't know what the odds are right now for a Dallas sweep. They're probably still pretty good. I still think this series goes 7 games, guys. I mean, again, I'm predicting it still might go 7. And I haven't heard you guys chime in terms of the longevity of this series, and do we overreact to what we saw just with one win by Dallas in game 1, albeit on the road, but they did have to come back late in that game to come away with a win. Jesse?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this series could go 7, and I think it's a matter of, can Kyrie and Luka play the way they did in game 1 every game? Probably not. But can they come up with enough games like that to win the series? And they just might.
I'm not sure what you mean. You got to.
No, that was for the free picks.
Oh, okay. No blaming. Okay, whatever. Thanks for the 116.5 over Boston, and Boston minus 8.5. You're very welcome. And these 2 gentlemen that are with me today have also been posting winners, along with Chip and Doug, my other guest on the show. So it's not all about me. These dudes are beasts. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Steven Martinez, great winner last night. Ross, again, I appreciate that, folks. That's what I'm supposed to do. But these other 4 guys that are with me on a weekly basis do a terrific job as well. They wouldn't be with me if they weren't pros, and they wouldn't be with me if they don't consistently win. So just keep that in mind. But I do really appreciate the kind words. I do. How do you not love these guys? Give the stream a like. I agree with you now, Sports Dogma. That's the best statement you made all day, Ross. It makes a difference for guys that bet on props, like, will Boston win 4 or 5 or 6 games?
What was this from? I don't know.
John Lim. I'm not sure what. I mean, again, help me out here, guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if he's talking about against the Pacers or in the final. I can't put my finger on what he's referring to.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the foundation to that question is, John. Could you be a little more clearer on that? All right, we got a lot more to go. Hit the like button. Yes, we appreciate that. What's up, fellas? Vincenzo Francis, what's up, fellas? Celtics to cover yesterday and over the points equal cash out combo. Good for you, my man. Congratulations. Vincenzo, a nice Irish boy. FYI, Boston is undefeated on the road in these playoffs. Yep. Their only 2 losses both came in game 2 versus Miami and Cleveland. Yes, we know that. And
yeah, but you asked that. You said, what was their road record earlier?
Yeah, well, I was being facetious when I asked that question.
Let's not forget, those are 2 of the weakest teams in the weakest conference, both without their best players.
And don't forget that Indiana hasn't lost at home either. Okay, so, John, I don't mean to be a wise guy, but I was being facetious because with Jesse, I wanted to see if he's awake. He keeps watching these. EPL's done, so he's watching games out of Romania. So
anyway. Turkish soccer.
Yeah, well, I mean, you need to know Romanian soccer, right, Jesse, if you want to get a promotion in this business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love Dallas money line tonight. It's
Mavericks are the stars.
Yeah, I mean, if you like the Mavericks, again, Sean disagrees with me on this, and this is okay. But see, here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with betting a money line underdog. But if they're going to give you points, okay, if they're going to give you points, especially when you start getting in the 5 and 5.5 range, don't get greedy. Take the points. If you feel strongly there's a good chance they're going to win the game outright, you make a smaller bet on the money line, okay? and then you hit the jackpot. If you don't win the money line and they lose by 4, how do you feel? If they cover the spread and you put all your eggs in one basket on the money line just because you're going to get a big payday. So cash them both. Come and live in Mexico. It's better.
Your head's not on the stick from the cartel.
Jason Tatum has the lowest 3-point percentage of all remaining players this postseason, 26.6%. And you know what? If I'm not mistaken, guys, isn't that a continuation from the end of the year too? I thought I want to say that he finished the regular season not shooting the 3 wellers, or did this all start to come to fruition during the playoffs? Jesse?
I can't say for sure about the regular season, but I know I've been all over his poor shooting in the playoffs, and I think you're right, because early on in the postseason they said he failed to hit his PRA in like 11 straight games or something. So yeah, I think the end of the regular season.
Don't quote me on this, guys, but I really think that he tailed off near the end of the regular season with his 3-point shooting. And they had mentioned that going into the playoffs, and it's continued into the playoffs. Sean, do you know anything differently in that regard?
No, but he was on like I said, he was on a terrible run. I pulled up his season stats, but they don't have the I'm not looking at that. I don't have the 3-pointers here on that.
Yeah, 26. Well, first of all, overall, he's a much better 3-point shooter than he's shown in the postseason. The problem is, as I've saw so many times, and you guys can comment on this, when a guy struggles at this time of the year, it's very difficult to turn the light switch back on, especially when we're talking 3-point shooting. You know what I mean? We're not talking about points per game. We're not talking about a guy who maybe shoots 5 threes a game, averages 30 points a game because he's a slasher, gets to the free throw line a lot. We're talking about a guy that shoots a lot of threes. And when he's mirrored in this big of a slump for this long, we're now talking conference finals, it's extremely difficult to turn things around because the pressure goes up. You're more tired as the series goes on. You're now approaching 100 games into the season. Anyway, guys, your thoughts in that regard? Jesse, start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to hit threes wide open in regular season games with no defense. It's a whole different kettle of fish in the postseason, and we're seeing he's not the only one. You look around, Luka's the same way. I mean, Luka's a 40+% 3-point shooter in the regular season. He's hitting 30%. There's a lot of guys that aren't hitting their threes in the playoffs.
But Jesse and Sean, you could comment on this. I think some of Luka's issues from the 3-point line are him not being 100% healthy more than all of a sudden him going in a slump. And I think with Jason Tatum, I've seen him not only shooting 26.5% from the field, but he's missing wide open threes on occasions too, that he normally is automatic. Sean?
Yeah, I was just looking at his season to regular season to postseason stats. So he's struggling. But hey, he's playing the most and is taking the most shots. So that's what he can do.
All right, folks, we got to wind it down. We're going on an hour and 45 minutes here. Thank you in advance for the 207.5 total over. You are all amazing. Thank you, Edgar, and thank you for chiming in. We appreciate you, my man. You have to edit those parlays. Okay.
That was for the bonuses.
Yeah. Peace, fellas. Doncic, double digit. Towns, double digit. Henderson.
This is a single game parlay.
Yeah.
Home run prop for Gunnar Henderson, Bryce Harper.
Yeah. All right.
Who's this? Is this women's basketball? Get this off the screen. Women's basketball.
Thank you for chiming in, True Allah.
Yes, right. He comes in the comment section.
Again, Sean is
WNBA.
Sean is auditioning for doing a live show. So
I'm just answering the questions.
All right, appreciate you, gents. Prayers for you and your family, Sean. And Sean, we our prayers go out to Sean and his family too. And I'm just glad it could have been much, much worse.
Yep.
Anyway, DraftKings up 2-0 promo for baseballs. Lovely type of promos I like.
The promos. Can't do it.
Again. Thoughts on Blue Jays Tigers? Going with Alek Manoah on the mound. I think that's an awful cheap price with Alek Manoah. and the fact that the Tigers bullpen can't get anybody out. Yesterday, I cashed in with Detroit in Toronto under 4 in the first 5, 1-0 after 5. I cited the fact that Detroit's bullpen is extremely concerning over their last 7 games, and the game finished 9-1. So, yeah, I just think it's a pretty cheap price, Jesse, for your Blue Jays here on the road.
Yeah, I'm on the fence with Manoah. I don't want to. It's too early for me to believe that he's put all those struggles behind him. He looks like the next Rick Ankiel to me.
Did he?
He's had 2 good starts.
Did he have two scoreless starts? The last 2, right?
Yeah, he's had 2 good starts, but I think in his first game back, he got clobbered pretty good. And I think there was one game where he got out of a lot of jams. He didn't pitch very well, but he didn't give up much because he got out of a lot of jams.
I want to say he pitched 13 innings, Sean, in no earned runs in his last 2.
Yeah, he's he gave up. Yeah, so he's got no earned runs the last 2 games, 14 innings, 3. He's 3 runs unearned. He gave up a home run. Yeah, again, 4 hits in 7 innings, and there's an unearned. Someone makes an error, and the guy hits a homer. I'm not blaming him. And he had a bad start game 1. But the last 2, he's looked like he was the guy he was from 2 years ago. If you're doing how about a run line instead of, if you want to get wrapped up, if you like Toronto, I'd say run line, because if he's going to pitch well, he's a strikeout guy anyway. Tigers aren't hitting.
What did they land? The last I looked, they were like 110, 115.
No, that was last night. It's up to almost 125 now. So I would go run line 1. I could take the plus 135 run line because I'm greedy, Ross.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you have it. I mean, your reasoning's sound with Manoah, and the bottom line is he's coming off 2 great outings. And the last I checked, Jesse, are we keeping you awake, buddy? Toronto, it's 4 a.m. over in Thailand right now. The last I checked, Detroit's not a very good hitting team. I'm 6-2 on that up to sweet promo. Okay, thanks, buddy. We appreciate you, man.
I guess it's hitting. I was wrong.
All right. We got to wrap it up, guys. So, again, we thank you for chiming in with all your questions and comments. And let me see if I get to somebody who hasn't chimed in here. Drew, Boston will win. Okay, Drew, good luck with that. And Minnesota ain't never been on the stage they weren't on the stage in the first 2 series, okay? And they came up big. So, I mean, they were down 3-2 to the defending champions, and they came back. So be careful. That's all I can tell you. Don't overreact to one game. And that's it, guys. That's it for today. We really appreciate all your questions and comments. Again, folks, if I left you out, I'm sorry. We're going on 2 hours, which is the longest show we've ever done in terms of our live show. And my man Seth, our producer in the background, is going, Ross, end this freaking thing. I'm not getting paid that much money for me to sit here and listen to you damn guys talk for 2 hours. Seth, I'll buy the beer, but we're still going over Jim's house on Memorial Day, man. All right, Jesse and Sean, I appreciate you guys. You guys are the best, man. And we've been doing this a long time together now, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. Sean, my thoughts go out to your son. And again, buddy, you could replace a material thing. You can't replace a child. And he is a child. He's in his teens, even though you put that tough love act on. At the end of the day, there is a like button underneath, Jesse.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button, folks, and find out who Jesse has in his soccer pick that he's been watching for the last 2 hours, because that game's just got to be complete by now because soccer only goes for 2 hours. But in any event, again, have a happy, safe, and enjoyable Memorial Day weekend. For Jesse Schule, Sean Higgs, Ross Benjamin, take care and God bless, folks. I'll be back Monday with Chip Chirimbus and Doug Upstone. Until then, see ya.